Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1A on the agenda, additions to the agenda.
I'd like to bring something up if I could. Just, I don't know if it's an addition to the agenda, but I think it's something that should be put out there as far as Board of Ed have a hiring freeze until the budget has been approved. Or something
A
along.
hiring
those lines.
freeze, when? For this year's?
Right now.
For right now, for this year's budget or next?
Starting
year's?
right now with any net new possible hires that might be in the works, till we get the agenda squared away. Or the budget.
Okay, but you're talking about you're talking about the budget that begins July 1st?
Yes.
Is that it? Okay.
Yes, yes,
Not
yes.
cutting things from now to the end of the year. Oh, okay. Is there a second for that?
To add it to the agenda, I'll second it.
Okay, there's a second from Ricky. Okay, well, let's see, that would be then a recommended action, I guess. We'll put that on, well, we haven't voted on it yet. So I guess we have a second, any discussion on it before we vote on it? Because we're going to need a 2/3 acceptance to vote.
Well, we're just voting to add it to the agenda right now, right?
Add it under recommended actions.
Right, but we need 2/3 vote to put it on the agenda. So I'll ask for, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on it before we?
I mean, I think I would like to know what positions are open and that we're trying to fill before I just say, let's have a hiring freeze until we get a budget situated. I'm not sure if we have any outstanding positions that we need to hire for.
Do we want to add it to the agenda? and then
Okay, I'm
during
sorry.
discussion to
Yeah.
vote, we can.
We gotta discuss that on.
My discussion went far afield.
Yeah,
I
that's okay.
apologize.
I
Okay.
appreciate that.
Trying to solution,
Yes.
trying to solution.
All right.
Any other comments or questions before we call a vote? Okay, seeing no other comments or questions, all those in favor of adding it to the agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Everyone opposed? Okay, motion carried unanimously. I guess we'll add that to 5C.
Or C.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Forcing.
Oh, yeah, recommended actions. I'm sorry, I'm looking at
That's okay.
new items. 4C. Okay, and we'll call that 2024-25 budget freeze.
Yes.
Okay. Any other additions to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'll move to item 1B. Comments from visitors regarding agenda items. Good evening. Everybody comments you'd like to make?
Did you say it was a hiring freeze and not a budget freeze?
Well, it's going to be a hiring and budget. We can't spend any money. The town hasn't given us any money yet, so I think that's the reason. There's going to be another vote, and who knows how many there are going to be. I think is the budget, our biggest expense is staffing. So I think that was the intent of it, but I think it would be the entire budget. So we have one.
It was an excellent clarifying question, though.
Question, yeah. Very good
Good
question.
job.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, go to chairperson's report. First thing, the budget failed a referendum last week. Everyone's heard about that. The Board of Finance is having a meeting tomorrow night, 7 p.m. in the town hall, and they are going to be considering an act on the reevaluation phase-in proposal to present to a town meeting. And they're also going to consider an act on a revised budget proposal for town meeting. So that would be, could concern ours. So that's tomorrow night, and that's going to be at the town hall. And then after that, we'll certainly be scheduling a budget workshop, I would imagine. Okay, and that's the end of my report. I guess I'll just add, I know Tony's here, he'll probably take it. Boys baseball won the state tournament, first round 16-2 today. They'll play Summers tomorrow at 3:30 at East Granby High School.
That's awesome.
And
We have one here, by the way.
very good. A good game today.
Congrats.
Okay, item 3, superintendent's report. Let's see.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Happy to see so many people here tonight. It's my pleasure to actually turn over this part of our agenda over to Principal of East Granby High School, Mr. Tony DeMello. We have some, as you know, we've been highlighting some of our programs and our students in our schools for the last few Board of Education meetings, and tonight we have the pleasure of seeing some presentations from a few of our high school students. So, Tony, if you would like to give a further introduction. I'm happy to see all the parents here and the kids and the staff supporting our program.
I'll keep my part brief. Tony Mello, principal of the high school. So we have two different presentations. We have a capstone highlighting presentation, which has three of our seniors presenting their capstones to all of you and to the public. And then we have a highlight or a shout out to one of our sophomores who is basically moving up the ladder of invention convention, which is super cool. So I'll talk about her in a little bit, but to start off with, capstone for us at the high school is like the culminating project for all of our seniors. So you put in your time at the school, you learn all the skills that we are hoping that you learn, and then you exhibit them by presenting a capstone project. The capstone project is generally something of interest to the student. So do I want to be a teacher when I grow up, right? They go and research teaching, they have the opportunity to go shadow or teach with a teacher at an elementary school or at a high school, and then afterwards they make the decision and they present out on, this is what I've learned, this is what I've learned about myself, and this is what I think I can do or think I can't do. So that's one type of project. There are projects where students they have a hobby and they want to take it to the next level. Last year, a student built a robot. Robot was not successful, but she still did a really good job on her project because she talked about the robot. She talked about her trial and error, her failures, her attempts to do better. And that to us was a very important kind of realization, self-reflection on self. This year, we chose 3 projects. The committee chose 3 projects because they provided a breadth of the larger picture of everything that was there. We have a career that mixes with a passion, right? We have a student who has taken one of our courses and really, I don't know where else he can go with it. He's explored it. It's amazing. You'll see in a moment what he's done with his kind of hobby, right? Because it ends up just being a hobby for him. I don't know. I don't think he's trying to go into the future with it, but it's something that I know he'll probably do for a very long time. And then our last student really took the idea of culture and what does her culture mean to her and how can she express it to the community. So we picked 3 projects that really, like I said, show a very large myriad or kind of encompasses the larger picture of all the stuff that we do at the school and what our kids are into. And we have Jacob here, we have Cecilia here, and we have Aditi here. I'll let them come up, introduce themselves on a larger, sort of more descriptive basis, and then let you know maybe what you're going to do next year, what you're thinking of doing, what your plans are, and then, they'll roll right into it. So we're going to start with Jacob. Thank you. So just a little side, we asked them to condense their projects because they were, some were 15, some were 10, some were 30, right? So we kind of asked them because they really got into it.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jacob Gorman. Next year, I'm going to Nantucket for advanced manufacturing, which is sort of along the lines with this technology. The description of my project, I was inspired by the drone course with Miss Munier to help the community with my capstone. I took drone videos and pictures of the school and made a virtual tour out of the video and wanted to put pictures up on the school website. The purpose of this was so that students could see the high school before coming in, because I know it can be scary not knowing where to go. Because, our middle school is right next to there, but you don't really travel there a lot. It also provides a better look for our website because it's not very as modern as drones are. I went through a lot of challenges. I mean, flying a drone is a challenge in itself because it's taking off. It's danger. It can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. Finding a time to fly into school was very difficult because you want to find a time where there's not really anybody in the school. Editing the video, that was a big challenge too because of how long it was, how many clips I got. And then mapping a drone or a route for the drone was difficult because I didn't want to overlap anywhere and have somebody see something twice. For our capstone, we had to have 2 learning expectations. The first one I did was demonstrate proficiency in the use of technology to communicate, research, and problem solve. I feel I did that with learning how to use the drone properly. And then demonstrate personal responsibility. I feel I did that through my time management skills, getting it done on time, and emailing staff, teachers to find a time to fly for the school. So learning all the drones, the first drone we have is the Phantom. This is the biggest drone, this is our class drone. This was the first real drone I'd say I flew. And DJI is a very cinematic company when it comes to drones. Mostly everybody uses them, there's not really another company out there. Any drone over 250 milligrams, you have to register. We did that with this drone and the next drone I'll show you. I use that for some of the outside clips that I've gotten at the high school. The next drone we have, and this is Miss Munia's drone. Sorry. This is the Avata. So this is an FPV drone, which stands for first person view. You would wear goggles. And I tried to fly this through the school, but it requires a lot of radio signals and all of that. So I wasn't able to. It's really wonky and everything. And then on these new FPV drones that DJI does, they came out with a new controller, which is pretty cool. So instead of holding it like the standard remote with just the sticks, you can see it's like a joystick in a sense where the throttle's right here. You move up, back, down, left, and right. And then the last drone we have is, I ended up buying this drone because of how much I enjoyed flying drones and everything. This is a basic drone that you can get off of DJI that's mainly for cinematic use. It doesn't go that fast. It just goes 29 miles per hour. It's very cinematic, basic. It's amazing to start for drones. And that's the drone I ended up using to fly through the school because it was easier with radio signals and everything. These are some of the photos I've taken. So that one in the top left, or the top left, right, and bottom left, I took those with the Phantom. And then the one in the bottom right, I took with my drone at Sandra.
That was our baseball field?
No, that was the one, that was the Little League field.
Okay, as I say,
Yeah.
it looks different from a
Yeah.
drone, okay.
I learned many things. I learned how to manage my time well through finding a time to fly through school and everything. Communicating, I got much better with communicating with teachers and everybody else, with emails, getting stuff done on time. Practice, I ended up I bought a game, or a game on my computer at home that I would play. It's like a practice. I logged 30 hours on it just because I had fun. It's like an FPV.
Simulator?
Yeah, simulator. Yeah, thank you. And then mapping. I learned skills on mapping to map through school and fly. These are some more pictures I've taken. These are at the same spot. I took all of them besides the bottom left with my drone, and then the bottom left one was with the Phantom drone. Now I'll show a sample of like the rest of the video, I can email it to you, just ask. The reflection of my project, I expanded my knowledge and skills with drones a lot. I know mostly everything about all these drones, and I'd love to buy more and use more. They're just very expensive. And I improved my communications. And then discovered an avenue that I can pursue as a side job. This is a job that I think you can't really just pick up, because when you're starting at first, you aren't really making a lot of money. But once you do get good at it, get connections, like there's people that fly for Netflix, like, and that would be a stable job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know that drones, you see them at athletic events, weddings, real estate, right? Would you need certification if you wanted to do like some type of a marketing for a side job?
So, yeah, there's a lot of certifications that you have to go through. So, first one that we get, and we get it as soon as we start the drones class, which is called the Trust. And that's just an easy test or quiz that you take online. And that's just to fly drones. And then there's also a certificate called Part 107, which I'm gonna go for after high school. And that's a lot more complicated. Like, you have to take an online test, and like, it's pretty much being a pilot. So you have to know weather maps and all, like, how everything works. And that's a lot harder. So I'm gonna go for that. And then there's other like waivers that you have to get. Like, you can't fly at night. You need to get a waiver for that. You can't fly over people. And yeah. So there's a bunch of different certificates.
People's backyards.
Yeah.
I wish we had classes like that when I went to school. That's all I got to
Fun
say.
class.
Question for you. What's the range, like on your personal one, that you can operate it? Do you have to see it? Does it have to be within sight line? or-
Yeah, so
Okay.
I mean, I could fly this like 4 miles, but it's illegal. Like,
But you have to be in the sight line?
so the law is that you have to be able to see what direction it's
Okay.
facing in, and yeah, you have to be able to see it
Yes, yeah, okay.
and know which, like, if it's facing forward or backward, which helps. It has lights on them, but I mean, if it's 500 feet away, it's still hard to see.
Yeah.
So. Any more questions?
Thank you much.
That's awesome, thank you. I love the video of the school. I think that's awesome.
Just a moment.
Okay.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Cecilia Carporze, and I'll be presenting a brief overview of my capstone project called The Path to Speech, in which I conducted a career study on a career of interest of mine. I will be attending South Regina in the fall for music education, which isn't this career, but for me, this still represents a possible future career, and more importantly, something that meant a lot to me that I really wanted to find out more about. So, as a preface for this project, I decided to focus on 3 major spheres in which you can find speech therapy: in the private practice field, in education, in the schools, and in the medical field, with a separate piece of my capstone dedicated to understanding and taking an analytical lens to a passion of mine. I play guitar. I attend the Greater Hartford Academy of the Arts for guitar. And so I really wanted to understand both how I can observe communication and collaboration, non-verbally, specifically on stage, and then also take that back into the therapy room and understand how music can be utilized in the context of this career. So as a brief overview and intro to speech therapy, for those of you who aren't familiar with this career, speech therapists, as a speech therapist, you're responsible with working with a variety of demographics. You can work with people from all ages and needs, people with dysphagia, swallowing disorders, to people who are missing muscles in their mouths. It is a very broad career that you can do a lot with, which is why I wanted to explore those different settings. And so as a speech therapist, you're responsible for assessing, diagnosing, treating, and developing plans of care in order to improve, maintain, and restore skills and functions in your clients. Taking a step back as to why I chose my topic and why this was such an important point of interest for me, I had a very large family connection with this. Growing up, my younger sister, Zoe, she is currently at Allgrove right now. She is on the autism spectrum. She has speech apraxia. And so I was very involved with her care from day one. And I was able to firsthand see how having a speech therapist in her life helped her express her needs and communicate herself, which is why I wanted to take more of a analytical lens as to what does this career look like in practice. Let's talk to some people who do this day to day. What does the day in, day out look like? Less so from a family perspective, but from a career perspective. And then, of course, number two is how it bridges with my passion. Again, I wanted to explore that interplay of communication and collaboration through my experiences performing and also in the therapy room. So as for what I did in my capstone, I interviewed 2 SLPs, one of which I will be showing today. I visited her private practice for speech pathology. I interviewed peers at my art school about communication's role in music. I conducted research on that and observed phenomena, just taking an eye to that as I performed in one of my own performances. And I created a career poster resource for others. So for my first interview that I did, the second interview I did, actually I can't show, but it was with a former faculty member of East Granby, Miss Molly Drunzik. She worked with my little sister, so it was really cool to be able to talk with her. But for now, I'll talk about the wonderful Ashley Colosi at SpeechPath LLC. So she received her BA at Boston College and her MA at UConn, which her talking about her experience gave me a really introspective look at the collegiate path, which was a big question I had. She actually went into college for elementary and special ed, which is not speech therapy. And it's pretty cool to hear about how, from her firsthand, how the curriculum background, the lesson planning background, and all that she learned going to school to be a teacher helped her pivot into this separate path and gave her arguably better tools than people who went straight through communication disorders in the straight path. So another really big point that she was able to impart to me was her wide background in animal-assisted therapy. We had 2 therapy dogs at the school today, which I got to say hi to as they were leaving. And animal-assisted therapy is a very pioneering, growing part of this career sphere. So it was really cool to hear. I mean, you can see right there how she incorporates that, especially with the high focus on ground rules and respect for the animal, especially when obviously speech therapy can be, again, it's very broad. It's not always with kids or adults with special needs, but when you are seeing a lot of people with special needs, there has to be a very, very definite ground rules as for respect for the animal. But one thing that taught me, as did the music portion, was how the idea of incentive and creating a space where your client is comfortable and giving them a bridge to bridge that comfort zone, it definitely made a significant difference as opposed to not having the animal there at all or not having music therapy there at all. So one last note for the slide, just to take a look at the environment that she's created. That was another really important thing. It doesn't seem like a lot, but the place and the surroundings that you find yourself in impact the way that you carry yourself and the actions that you choose to take. So making it a very light, relaxing atmosphere, again, it's all part of the picture. Comparing and contrasting in different settings. So this was actually taken from my second interview with Molly Drunzik, but she was able to say her experience in all 3 of these settings. She's had experience in all 3 of these settings. Roundabout way of saying that, but she has worked in all 3 of them, and this is all stuff that she directly imparted to me. First, the school setting, there's more regulation on who can and can't qualify, but one thing that she really enjoyed about teaching in the schools was how many kids she was able to help, and how she was able to have that classroom setting and colleague review and all of that, team meetings and all of that. There was a huge support net for her kids. In the hospital, she imparted to me, which I will say here, it is a completely different world. It's so much more scientific, and it's really cool to think about how with the same degree, you can find yourself in a hospital, in a school, running your own business. This is all with the same certificate. So it's cool to see how this career changes depending on where you frame it. In this picture with the hospital, you see a modified barium swallow study for a client with dysphagia. And lastly, with the private practice, and actually Kalosi gave me some insight on this too, was just the breadth of freedom that you're able to have. So the truly individualized session was a very important part of that. For the music part of my capstone, I had the incredible opportunity to be one of the lead guitarists in our, and by our, I mean the Greater Hartford Academy of the Arts' production of Academy Pops, which is akin to like how the musical theater department hosts a musical. The music department hosts a popular music concert with selections from many different genres, and we had lights and the stage all set up. It was a night, and I took that opportunity to be able to interview fellow performers, study nonverbal communication and connection in that experience performing. And then I took another lens of researching how I can take that back. So researching music therapy and how music and performance can coincide with speech pathology as a science. Nonverbal communication and performance. There were two really important parts of this. When I was up on stage performing, obviously I was focusing on performing, but I really wanted to take that and multitask and a little bit in my head and be observant and understand what was happening around me and understand the nonverbal communication taking place and how that can really come back to something like speech pathology. So two of my fellow band members, Nairobi Muning and Jocelyn Bruschat, were able to give some testimonials as to just the sheer amount that this impacted them performing. And one thing that they both stated was that push and pull, the eye contact, facial expressions, hand gestures, and all of that can directly be taken back to speech therapy. All of those are ways of communicating that hold a lot of weight. And that, even up here, using hand gestures and all of that, it definitely impacts the way that you can communicate yourself. And again, some observed things that happened that very night. People were clapping, doing the wave. I was on stage jamming with my peers in a sense that it wasn't planned, it just happened. And stuff like that, that push and pull of energy, it can be brought back because that is how you interact with other people, and that is how you interact with your environment. And while this concert may not have been the best place for someone like my little sister, here are some pictures. See, as I raised that thought, I really wanted to understand what sensory friendliness in performance would look like. So this next slide, my final slide, was just a look at taking everything that I learned from this music section, from being on stage, and trying to connect it back to speech therapy. So the two major points I want to cover is sensory friendliness in performance. Now, I know you can't see the image that I have up here, but there are some really interesting points when you're looking at this very new ground in the performing arts called a sensory relaxed performance. The Bushnell actually has a performance season this season with sensory relaxed performances, dates and times. They're holding them now, you can go see. And in these performances, you're going to see an elimination of bright flashing lights, space and anticipation, and all in all, extra thought and resources that can offer people who may be more comfortable with a more low-key atmosphere the ability to participate in something that so often can be gatekept from people, not even people who have special needs, but anybody who has sensory sensitivity. Lastly, music therapy and speech therapy. So I would have loved to interview music therapists for this project. Unfortunately, I did not have the opportunity to, but as a note, music engages an incredible amount of processing mechanisms that are directly tied to speech. And so oftentimes you will see a music therapist in the same room as a speech therapist, or you will see a speech therapist incorporating music into their curricula. So sound encoding, sequencing, attention, memory, and learning, all in all, that is all interconnected with each other. And it can help by having a vehicle to explore that, which could be background music, or having a client sing along to something, or having a child make up their own lyrics in order to work on grammar or vocab. It all comes back together. And so with that, I thank you for your time, and if there's any questions. I would be happy to answer.
Well, we'll clap first.
Anyone got any comments or questions?
Great job.
Yeah.
I love speech therapy and music together. That was awesome. Yeah.
Cecilia, I'll say my daughter's in her third year of speech and language pathology, and to your point, I didn't realize how clinical and medical piece of it is. So with your Department of Health that you're going to get, you really have so much opportunity in front of you, and I love the bridge, whether it's music or art therapy, together with the speech therapy, and you're gonna do awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us. It was very informative. It was interesting. Thank you. Okay. so-
Sort of like how nurses, they have traveling nurses.
Uh-huh.
My daughter's friend is a traveling speech language pathologist, so it's also a great way to kind of
Oh, yeah.
travel the United States and
The other woman who I interviewed, a former faculty member here at East Granby, she has been on an adventure. And when I said that she had experience in those three little settings, it sounds like it's nice and neat in a tide bow. I just met a really experienced person, but she worked in Chicago public schools. She's been all across the country. She's been all over the place. And I definitely agree with you. It can be something where you're able to go where you're needed and make it.
Hi, my name is Aditi Dagapaka. I'm a current senior. And a little background on my capstone is I moved to America about 7 years ago. I was born and brought up in India around family and around friends, and moving here made me realize that not a lot of people, not a lot of Indians and Indian kids here have experienced the same things that I have grown up around the same things that I have. And I wanted to learn more personally, having moved here, about what, like the history of India and other things that come into play as an Indian citizen. And since I moved here 7 years ago, it was right at the age that I would start learning things about my country, start learning things about my culture, about my family. But unfortunately, I moved here. I love this place, but I wanted to learn more about my background and where I came from, which is why I made a presentation and I researched India as a whole. And I made a presentation for the 4th grade class at Seymour. And it was a whole presentation about various aspects of India, including languages, festivals, food, clothing, because India is a very diverse country in all aspects, in any aspect that you can think of. So I wanted to share that with other people, and I wanted to give back to my community as giving them knowledge and increasing their curiosity about learning other cultures, learning about other countries. So the two learning community, the two learnings that I did, the first one is demonstrate an understanding of the impact of cultural and linguistic diversity in our global society. I realized that culture impacts our daily lives, whether we wanted to or not. Because in my life, I wake up in the morning, go about my day, but everything starts in our worship room. I go there first thing in the morning, and that's how my day starts. I go there last thing before I go to bed, and that's how it ends. It's how it's always been, and how I hope for it to continue. And I've realized that not a lot of other Indians do the same, not especially people that have grown up here, because it's not something that they're used to, it's not something that they were introduced to. It might just be because they reared away from it or just was never a thing in their family in the first place. And I also wanted to show the Indians here, not just Indians, other kids as well, that it's okay to accept your culture. It is okay to showcase your culture, to represent it for other people, saying that this is where I'm from and I'm proud of where I'm from. Because a lot of Indians that I've spoken to have not been able to say that for themselves. They haven't been able to showcase their culture as much as I would have liked to see it. So that is something that I really wanted to do, and to showcase other kids from other cultures as well, to research their own culture, learn more about where they're from, learn more about their backgrounds, and to be able to tell other people, this is where I'm from, and I love this place, and I love this part of me. Because it's so important to have a connection to where you're from, because it really forms a big part of you. And I realized that especially after moving here, because I miss the festivals, I miss my family, I miss everything that we used to do together as Indians as for the festivals, the languages, the food, especially the food. But I miss all of that. So that's something that I researched and showed other kids. These are a couple of the pictures from Seymour. I had 3 of the 4th grade classes, all of them in one room, and I gave them a presentation. As you can see, there's a few kids on the floor, and they were all so attentive about what I was saying. They were asked questions, they answered questions at the end, and I also dressed up in an Indian dress. It's called a kurti, and I tried to showcase as much as I could on me and show them that I love that I'm doing this. I love that I'm wearing this, and this is why we do this. This is why where all of it's from. The second one was demonstrating creative expression through communication or the arts. Verbally, I was able to explain to them, and they asked questions, I answered. I asked questions, and they answered. At the end of my presentation, I asked all of them questions about the presentation that I gave, and all of them were able to answer all of the questions I asked. They had a little difficulty with pronouncing things, but they had the foundation of it. Visually, I showed them languages, and they tried writing in different scripts. I showed them how to write my name, how they could write theirs, and languages is not something, there's only one language that I'm fluent in with the writing, which is Hindi, which is one of the official languages of India. But Telugu, which is the language that I speak, I didn't get the chance to learn as back in India, so that's something that I'm continuing today. I'm still working on practicing reading and writing in that language. Rangolis are these drawings that we do in front of our house on festival days, on religious days, and it's usually just done in chalk or a little powder, and you color it in. It's done in front of the house. So I printed out a bunch of Rangoli pictures, and they were able to color them at the end of the presentation. And I also showed them dances. I'm a dancer. I do Kuchipudi, which is an Indian classical dance form, and I've been learning for the past 7 years. Ever since I moved here, I had to switch to that dance form because back in India I learned a different one that is not taught anywhere near here. So I had to switch to this. So I wanted to incorporate that as well because dance is such a huge part of who I am. I just finished my diploma in Kuchipudi. It took me 6 years because there's 4 years of certification, 2 years of the actual diploma through the Silakananda University in California, which they are affiliated with a university back in India who does the same. I am going to California at the end of the week for my diploma graduation.
Congratulations.
And thank you. So I had a couple of videos for them, pictures for them from those dances to show them this is what I do in the dance. This is how I showcase different things. How hand gestures are different, colors are different, the dress matters, the hair matters, the jewelry matters. How everything is done for a certain purpose, for a certain reason, to communicate a certain meaning. The third one was songs and videos. They were able to listen to those songs, they were able to listen to those videos, and pay attention to every little thing that I told them that was going to be in that video. That if you close your eyes, you can pay attention to certain small things that I think they really enjoyed. And physically, they tried different hand gestures that I use in my dance to communicate different meanings. Those are a couple more pictures. If you can see, there's rangolis on their tables that they colored at the end of the day. And in the last picture, I'm not sure if you can see or not, that is me explaining one of my dance videos. I put up one of my dance videos for them, and I was explaining bits and pieces of the hand gestures, the ankle bells, the dress, the hair, all of that. And it's a little hard for you guys to see, but in the second picture, I am talking about food. And you can see the smile on my face because that is such a huge aspect that I miss from back home. And it's something that I'm looking forward to. My mom and I do our best, try to cook those at home, but it's different when you're eating it with your family back home. My self-reflection, I learned how important it is to be able to communicate with different kind of people. I was in contact with Ms. Lukenbach, the principal at Seymour, so I can figure out a day, a time, a good place so I can do this with them. But I also had to learn how to communicate with 4th graders. I don't have much experience talking to kids. I'm either usually people my age, middle school, or people a lot older. But I don't have much experience talking to little kids. So I had to talk to a few of my family friends who have kids, talk to those kids, see what they were interested in, and I had to learn that aspect before I gave them a presentation, because my presentation was 1.5 hours long, and I had to keep their attention throughout. And I also realized that I had to take charge for what needs to be done. I couldn't wait around for someone else to reach out for me. I had to do it myself. I had to take initiative, and I had to get things done. And I also learned more about my culture and my history of the country, because I moved in middle school, and middle school is usually when we start learning about the history, the geography, and everything of India. But once I moved here, I didn't have the opportunity to learn about any of that, because here we usually focus on American history, or if anything, European history. So I don't have a lot of knowledge about that. So I did a lot of research about the history of the country, and I learned a lot about how India came to be how it is today. The students showed continued interest about India and its culture, because they kept asking questions, and some of them related back to me about their own culture. When I was talking about the food, one of the kids, he was from Brazil, and he was explaining to me how one of the foods that I was talking about was similar to one of their cultural foods, and how he really enjoyed that. And my last but favorite point was the children went home and told their parents enough to spread the word. Because a few weeks later, someone who mows our lawn, he came up to my house, knocked on my door, and was telling my dad that, hey, I heard your daughter did a presentation at Seymour, and apparently she did amazing. And he was like, what are you talking about? Why do you know this? And apparently his neighbors have kids from that class who went home, told their parents. Their parents told their neighbors, and he thought it was kind enough to come back to my house and tell my dad that this was something that I was able to do. And the part that shook me the most was that the children were able to remember my last name enough to tell their parents, because he recognized my last name and was like, oh, I know who that is, and came to my house and told my dad about this. So I realized that the kids were genuinely interested in learning about different cultures. They were curious enough to learn it more, and they wanted to continue learning about different cultures. They wanted to continue learning about me and where I'm from and everything that makes up me. And my hope was to teach them that they should do the same, learn about their backgrounds, learn about their culture. And I think that is something I succeeded through this, and it's something that I would definitely support having kids do, learn about their backgrounds. And it's not just kids, people who move here, I feel like tend to lose a part of them with their traditions and background. But through something like this, I was able to learn more about where I'm from, and it grew my respect for India as a whole and my curiosity about India to continue learning more. And that was it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We know what Jacob and Cecilia are doing next year. What are you doing next year?
I'm going to UConn for computer science engineering with a concentration in cybersecurity and a minor in criminal justice. But I also hope to be teaching dance and pursuing my dance as a side career.
Great. Well, I want to thank you for sharing your passion, your culture,
Thank you.
not only with fourth graders for an hour and a half, but all fourth graders together for an hour and a half. That's pretty impressive.
60 to 70 kids.
Yes.
That's impressive.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Thank you all for coming tonight. We have one more. I'm sorry.
Yes, so, thank you to the three of you guys, right? That was great. I appreciate it. And hopefully, as the board, as the town watching, you can see some of the great stuff that we're doing at the school, specifically, in terms of our capstone, which I think is an amazing, like I said, culminating project for our seniors, because it allows them to explore passions, it allows them to explore potential careers, and, in Aditi's case, right, exploring culture. For her, that means something, and she wants to spread that to everyone else. So, again, thank you to the three of you very much. Thank you, Ms. Munir, who's had a little bit of sprinkling in some of this, and then also thank you to Ms. Light, Marjorie.
Oh, I didn't see Miss Munier
She's
back
in the
there.
back. And then, also to our Director of Curriculum and Professional Development, Ms. Light, who helps me and the teachers with the capstone itself, but also I think helped some of them with kind of narrowing down the presentations. If you ever do get a chance, and you can, I don't know, maybe Aditi, you could send out, like, Jake, you could send out your video, that would be great, right? Cecilia, if you want to send out one of your performances, that would be great. And then Aditi, if you want to send out one of your dances, that would be awesome too. Yeah. Okay. Now, those were our seniors, right? Usually when we come up, we highlight our seniors because of the capstone. Very easy way to see sort of what 4 years can look like for us. Currently, we have an awesome sophomore, Varshini. She has been doing great things, and this is more of a tie-in from something that happens very early on, right, in East Granby, to someone who has taken this invention convention, right? What would that be called? Curriculum, that would be called, I mean, what's it called at the elementaries and middle schools? Like, just call it
Invention convention.
All right. So this I'm like trying to find the right word, like program or whatever. Yeah, after school club, after school kind of, I think program, right? But invention convention is a very large, national kind of program. And Varshini will tell you a little bit more about it if you don't mind, right? It's probably easier coming from her, but she's been participating in it for the last 7 years, right? Yeah, since second grade, right? So from second grade to sophomore in high school, she's taken ideas and had them grow over time. And currently, she is going to MIT, right? In when? This week, June 12th, right? To go into the finals. Did that already happen?
No, finals is June 10th, and that's the invention convention. I can let this.
Yes. She makes it sound better than I can.
So as Mr. DeMello said, I do this program called Invention Convention. So in the beginning, I saw this like activity or program. Oh, my mom did, and I was like, Invention Convention and sent together. And she was like, oh, you should sign up for this. It sounds interesting and things like that. And so the first year I went, I just kind of noticed what everyone was doing around me and like kind of intaking like all these ideas, all these things. So what Invention Convention is it's a problem-solving program. So kids are given an opportunity to have a problem, to solve a problem in their life, or problems that they see around themselves in the world. And so in second grade, we were like 7 or like 8, so it was like pretty basic ideas. And at the end of second grade, you could have presented your invention or just kind of kept it to yourself. So in second grade, I was very shy. I was a very like timid little girl. So I decided not to participate. But throughout the years, in third grade, I started to participate, and throughout then, I've been going to UConn for state finals. I went to nationals in 8th grade in Michigan. And so Invention Convention is not only like a place to build your creative mind, but also a way to help your speaking points and things like that. And it's a great STEM program to get you involved into like STEM and technology and things you're interested from a young age. Like at nationals, there were 4th graders using like crazy technology that I didn't even like understand.
Excuse me.
So this year, I created YAD 2.0. This is a continuation from my last year's project. And so what YAD is like the problem that I had was people with like dementia or Alzheimer's or like elderly people have like a hard time remembering to take their pills. And up to like 50 patients with chronic diseases are like not adherent to their medications. So like they might forget to take it or like they just might not take it. And it also helps like caregivers also might not have enough time in their day. Like if you're the parent or if a kid who needs to get pills or like the grandparent, you might not have enough time, and you could also mix up with the pills. And my grandpa has dementia, so he forgets to take his pills. So the solution I came up with is YAD. And so how YAD works is you go on Google Calendar because it's automatically synced with your Google Calendar, and you set a time. So like, for example, if you'd like to take your pill after 3 p.m. or after lunch or whatever, you can just set up a time 3 p.m. an event in your Google Calendar, and then it'll automatically dispense at that time. So that's the solution I came up with. And so it's like, originality is just like, there wasn't really nothing on the market that was both combining like a smartphone app and like an actual physical device that dispenses pills. And I wanted to combine the two to reduce like efforts for people who need it. And so I had a bunch of prototypes as this was between 2 years. So first I just kind of like started to work on just like the stepper motor and just like trying to make the pillbox smooth. I have my invention which I'll show after the prototypes.
And so in the second prototype, I like kind of add on and build from my knowledge from before, and I started to add like boards, motor shield and stepper motors as like rotates to spin. And in prototype number 3, you kind of get like a basis of the first prototype that kind of actually works with the pillbox. I know it's kind of hard to see, but it doesn't really have casing, so you couldn't really like distribute this into like centers and things like that. And prototype 4 is kind of the same idea with the different board. And so this is my final prototype. Again, it is a prototype, so it's kind of like wonky in some places. So in the first prototype, on the final prototype, I can pass this around. There's like wires. So in YAD, the memory pillbox, how it works is like, as you see inside, there's multiple like stepper motors which turn the motor. And so I didn't connect it, but I can just demonstrate it. So for example, once the pill hits like the time, say 3 p.m., this will start to rotate and then it'll dispense the pill. So this is as like a hook mechanism for it to like pull back, but not like pull back too much and just like fall out. And so when it spins, it'll dispense the pill onto this little padding so then the grabber or like the patient can just grab it easily and take the medicine. You can pass this over. So something I wanted to add onto this was like adding a facial recognition, because like there's a lot of use of like pills with other people taking pills that don't belong to yourself. So facial recognition with how it would work is that you could have 2 people on it, the caregiver and the patient. So the pill would only dispense once either the patient's face is recognized or the caregiver's, and then it would recognize. And to remember to take your pill, it would also like make a sound, kind of like an alarm, like iPhone alarm clock, and that would signal the patient to remember, oh, I need to go take it, or the caregiver. And so, as I said before, it's kind of made using like 3D printed parts of like the boxes, and like one of the parts that I'm probably gonna improve is my 3D prints, because right now it's connected using 2 boxes, Velcro, and some fabric. I'm probably going to print it all in like one 3D printed set. And as I said before, the impact is like helping patients remembering when to take their pills, helping nurses or caregivers help with their time management. So I tested multiple times. I accidentally connected the negative wire to the positive side and the positive wire to the negative side and burnt a lot of boards. But it's all like testing and proving. So I also reached out to many like hospitals and senior citizens. So I asked for marketing and seeing how the product would actually work in real life scenarios. And so I asked them on a scale of like 1 to 10, how useful do you think this invention is? And like majority of the people said above 5 or like 8 or 5. And which I would say is a good sign that this would do pretty well in the market, or it's a very useful invention for people. And like the same thing with the facial recognition. It's like a very good idea to implement according to the users. And based on the previous data, you can kind of see the trend, that the trend is like most people would use it and it's probably going to be a successful product. And some feedback is just like that not like all like seniors are used to like iPhones, so maybe implementing it a different way, maybe adding like a digitalized clock or something onto the product itself, so instead of using any phone, it could just all be on the invention. And like facial recognition also comes with privacy leaks and like data, so probably ensuring like a network that's very safe, like using that would be used third party. And another person also asked to like use their like doctor appointments, blood works, and all their medical stuff onto the invention. So that could also be another possibility where you could create an app and add all their information, like their blood type, the pills they have to take. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Brag about your state championship thing, where else you're going in, like the part that I couldn't get out correctly, right?
So Invention is basically, it's a competition And so the first level is school level, then it goes to state and nationals. And so in school level, no one else really participated, but in like the middle school or elementary school, the school students would have to vote like, oh, this is great, this is amazing, or like pick their top 3. And once you get selected from school, you get to go to the state. And at state, they give you awards and you present your invention again. And between the different competitions, you can revise and improvise your like prototypes to make it better based on like the feedback that you got. So like, say that you're going to states, you can improvise using your school feedback. And then once you state, they also hand out awards. And one of the awards is MIT. And it's like the Ledger program. And so it happens June 12th. And so I'm invited to come and present. But it is a competition itself. So I get to talk to like-minded peers, MIT professors, MIT staff, and like kind of network and see like what other people are doing too. And then at States is June 10th. They will hand out awards. This award just came kind of early because it's right after States, and you kind of have to do some stuff for it. And once you get into States, they'll let you know if you make it to nationals. And at nationals, you go to Michigan. And at Michigan, again, you get to like see all the other inventions. So it goes from kindergarten to 12th grade. And so many people. And Connecticut is one of the biggest invention conventions supporters, per se. The most amount of people who kind of do invention convention is from Connecticut and Massachusetts.
Roshni, one comment and one question. What does YAD stand for?
Yad is Hindi for memory, and I kind of took it in dedication for my grandpa, due to the fact that he speaks Hindi, and it kind of represented it well.
Got it. And if I'm remembering correctly, I remember looking at one of your first prototypes in 8th grade. So it's amazing to see how it, through trial and error and, different iterations, that it's come along. So that's great.
So I'm an occupational therapist, and I work with a lot of elderly people, especially with trying to figure out how we can get them to take their medication in a timely manner. And you keep going with this, because this would be awesome, especially like in my career where I can set it up with them, teach, and another piece of it is like, there's a lot of money that they have, we have to save up to be able to take care of the elderly. And one of them is hiring a nurse to come in and just dispense medication. And that's a huge cost. And this could be a huge cost saver, for family members too. So keep going with it. You're doing awesome.
Thank you, and good luck. Good luck in MIT. Now I'll thank everyone for coming, and if you'd like to leave or you'd like to stay for our meeting, you're certainly welcome, but I'll let you leave right now if you want. And I'm going to do a 2-minute recess, if that's okay with the board. I see one board member's going, and
No, he shouldn't like,
I shouldn't like
he's a light man.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Everybody.
Great seeing you.
Messing up.
Great, thank you.
Cecilia, good luck. You'll do great.
Thank you.
Jacob, when's the next game?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Oh,
3:30.
Yeah, we're playing Summers.
great. Okay,
Summers, boom.
good luck.
Thank you. See you final draft.
Thank you, parents. Thank you, Ms. Munier.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. DeMello. Thank you, Mr. Kirschner. You can go.
You guys get back up? Thank you.
For a nominal fee.
Thank you.
Might be worth it, huh?
All right, have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
David, do you want to, oh, there's a break.
Yeah.
Thank you, as always. Yeah. I can have them.
Had you seen her presentation a couple of years ago?
Person?
Next week I'm in Minnesota.
Kind of expensive.
I think I've definitely heard
I
about it
think
before.
she gets something
Maybe,
years ago.
for middle school highlights.
Yep.
I've heard of it before.
It was
Yeah.
a convention, Yeah, it wasn't 7 years.
What are you guys gonna do with
Well,
yourself? Just fall asleep?
She's been working on
She
it, let's
has
say,
been.
well, she's up to prototype 5 or 6.
Yeah.
It's amazing to watch their ease of presenting as well, you know? Just, it's so wonderful, just all of them just able
Yeah.
to get up and speak and present.
One of them. God.
It's a testament to the school system because
For a day trip, like just 10 minutes.
it's terrible. Because I don't think
Find out. Getting down there around like 11 on
they started
Friday.
really requesting people to come.
We actually-
They were like,
we did 3 days
"High
out
school,
there.
and you've got to start."
Yeah, and we do it so young, like you
Yeah.
see.
We
when they're
just
younger.
said yes to everything.
Good, you made a motion?
John first, the motion to adjourn, and Lisa seconded.
Lynn took over as acting chair.
None of that happened,
Now
but
we're
we're
leaving.
still on the agenda.
Item 4C.
That's right.
Good idea.
Capital request.
Sure. You do have in front of you a capital request packet. This is still primarily a work in progress. I will finalize it before the Board of Finance meeting, which will be June 11th, but I would say it's 99% complete for this evening. We are looking to request 3 capital items. Oh, actually, do we need a motion? Did we do a motion?
Did we do a motion? No.
No.
No. I get a motion?
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a minute. I'm jumping out of,
Yeah, that would be.
I'm jumping out. Let me.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Let me just say, we have capital requests that will
Right.
come later on for recommended
Recommended
actions.
actions, yep.
And retirement, we do have one retirement that just came through, Mr. Jim McVeigh, who is our afternoon middle school custodian. He's been with us since July of 2019. He will be retiring. We thank him for his time in our schools and working with our custodians up at the middle high school. And we certainly wish him the best in retirement.
Yes, absolutely. Good for him.
Okay, now we'll go to recommended actions. Item 4A, approved field trip. That's a clarification from our last meeting. What was missing? I guess,
Motion.
I made a motion to approve the field trip.
So moved.
Okay, a
Second.
second? You got a second from anyone? Okay, Whitney's got a second, okay.
Essentially, we just didn't have a motion last
All right.
meeting, so I need to put it back
Yeah.
on the agenda for a motion.
Okay.
So it's the same field trip. This is the field trip to Costa Rica for April vacation 2025.
I still had one clarifying question because it was confusing. When we were at the meeting, I was understanding that it was next year's 8th graders that would be invited, but then the information that came out did
Okay.
not say the same thing.
So Mr. Chairperson Patzwich just asked me the same thing. I might be interpreting it incorrectly. I'm thinking from what I'm hearing, I apologize for the error on my part, because it's a approval now, it sounds like it's the 8th graders this current year so that they can attend meetings. I read it that it would be 8th graders at the end of next year, but I didn't realize that that was confusing until I sat down here tonight. So I apologize for not having an opportunity to clarify that.
So we're thinking class of 2028 is the youngest group that would be invited to go. 2028 is this year's 8th graders.
This year's 8th graders, yes.
So at the time of the trip, 9th grade.
So there'll be 9th graders for
Be in high
next
school.
spring.
Be in high school.
Right, so there would only be high, because
High school.
The
It will be
list-
current high schoolers. I think the phrase, from what I'm understanding,
Right.
about 8th graders entering high school is for the purpose of attending the meetings now.
Gotcha.
So I apologize. I read that in one way that seemed very clear to me. I didn't realize that I
Gotcha.
misunderstood it. And I
Okay.
didn't realize until I sat here tonight that that was the
Gotcha.
case. So thank you for that.
Good. Any other questions or comments? Okay, do you have anything else you wanted to give us? on
Nope,
that?
essentially, we just needed to have the motions for.
All those in favor of approving the motion for the field trip, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carried unanimously. Thank you. And item 4C, 2024-25 budget freeze. Mark, I'll let you start.
Want to do capital request?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. Motion to approve the capital request of the Board of Finance.
I'll
as
make a
presented.
motion to approve the capital request of the Board of Finance. We can discuss it.
Second by Lynn. Any discussion or comments on it?
I can share in front of you, you have
The
the
packet.
capital five-year plan. This is what our Board of Education approved back on September 11th of 2023. And this is what was presented last fall to the Board of Finance. Okay, that's the Excel spreadsheet. The packet is what will be presented to the Board of Finance. This comes as a result of me working with our facilities manager, Mr. Ray Carlson, as well as conversations through our facilities subcommittee. We are looking to request 3 items. I have an explanation. Technology capital will be for view boards. And I can just kind of summarize the statements here. Several years ago, we did a plan looking out between $12,000 and $24,000 a year for a number of years to replace our view boards in district throughout all of our buildings. We have been very fortunate to secure grants in the amount of $82,000 from Pegpedia, $19,000 from ESSER, and $22,000 for Open Choice. So we have been able to pretty much outfit our entire district with grant funding for our view boards and have not needed to ask in the past years for capital. We revisited our capital plan last September and we put in $25,000. That, along with the $20,000 we're expected for Pegpedia, will completely outfit all of our buildings. In speaking with our IT, these boards are much more efficient, and we're looking at a good 10-plus years before we need to look at another kind of passage through again. And that actually might even be on the low side, because they are much lower energy and much more efficient than our older smart boards. So they request, and we do have 3 vendor quotes. Our preference would be to go with Whaley Computer Associates. They're our current established vendor and have excellent customer service. So between our capital request of not to exceed $25,250 and what's expected through Pegpedia, which is about $20,000, we will be able to purchase all of our view boards as well as the installation to have them in over the summer and be ready for next school year. Any questions on view boards? Okay. The second item, I'm going to go up to the top of the page above the technology capital, is for field irrigation. The irrigation of our fields, baseball, softball, and the upper soccer field have been a capital item beginning in 2006. A few years ago, we invested non-lapsing funds to improve both the baseball and softball fields. With the funding requested last spring for field maintenance, along with this request, we expect to be able to complete the irrigation for all 3 fields. Now, as a side note, the lower soccer field already has irrigation, an irrigation system. We do have 2 quotes. We might have a third one, and we did have a couple companies who would not quote. They basically stated they've quoted us before, or they know we've gone out to others and would not provide a quote. But we do have 2 quotes. One from Anderson Turf and one from Green Machine. They're coming in between 90 and 100,000. Of course, there's some specs that would have to be looked at in terms of the piping that comes through, and I know another company was out looking at that. So with last spring's capital funds, which we requested 50,000, we're requesting 75,000, should give us enough to complete the irrigation for those remaining 3 fields. So the request would be not to exceed $75,000.
So we have 50,000 that's been approved already, you're saying, that they'll give us towards it?
We have, let me just look where I don't want to.
Yes.
Yeah, 50,000 from last spring.
last year.
Any questions or comments on that?
And I'm sorry, and your
Sure.
two quotes are 100, 125?
We have one quote for 88,134 and another ballpark quote for 102.
And I have a ballpark quote from a company for 90,000, but that's only covering 2 of the fields, not all 3. They haven't given me details yet.
One, the larger one for 100,000 includes the 3 fields, the baseball, the softball, and the upper soccer field.
It does.
And you're saying we have 50 already.
Mhm.
So you're asking for another 75? Is that new math?
Yeah. And that's in our 5-year plan, the 75.
But if we have 50 towards it, why are we asking for 75 instead of asking for like 60?
I think last year's field maintenance wasn't 100% pegged for irrigation, correct?
You're correct. It was field maintenance. We were looking at warning tracks, we were looking at fencing, we were looking at irrigation. I think the committee decided, let's go with the irrigation, since we put the investment into some of the fields already, and to keep them, properly maintained right now. John, we certainly can look at, lowering that. I'm going by the number that we, had in our plan.
I'm just, if we have a balance that we didn't use on field, the field maintenance, and we have a balance that's there, wouldn't that be part of the irrigation proposal?
I think part of it is the proposals we're getting is only strictly for the actual irrigation system, and we haven't fully decided if we're going to go city water or well as well.
Okay.
So I think there's some buffer in there
I get
if
it.
it's determined that a well would be.
So the quotes you're getting right now are just for the 3 fields to be...
Piped and a pump.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sprinkler
they
heads.
all have a statement that says, based on the existing booster pump working at a certain level, so all of that would have to be assessed.
Okay. All right.
And as always, it's always, unused funds to be returned to the town, of course, in any situations. But if you wanted to look at decreasing that by somewhat, that'd certainly be a conversation.
No, my only comment is this is a capital improvement. It's not raising taxes. It has nothing to do with next year's budget. This is money that we as taxpayers have already paid, and the Board of Finance puts it into a capital budget project, so it has nothing to do with, I don't think it has anything to do with like Mark's motion. And, it goes back to 2006. I know I've heard comments of us fixing the fields and not doing other things. This goes back to 2006, and we made a major investment last year with the town government of about $75,000 between us to improve the softball and baseball field, and we are lucky we had a wet season because it still looks very good. But we looked at irrigating. Back in 2006, it was $25,000 to do it. And here we are. So I had trouble with it, but I think when we look at it and put it in perspective, it has nothing to do with the budget that we're dealing with, which is our operating budget, which changes each year. As part of our 5-year plan, it's been there since 2006. And the last few years, I know the Board of Finance with us, we've been looking at it closely, that it's coming time to do it. And after improving both fields, it's really become necessary to do it. That's all I have to say.
The final request is actually funding for the 24-25 school year, although that'll start technically July 1, but our requests go in at the end of June to the Board of Finance. And this is to support the requirement for the indoor air quality testing. There's 2 levels of testing that is coming up. There's an annual testing as well as a 5-year balancing of our HVAC system. I'm still working with our facilities director since we are in the middle of an HVAC project. However, everything that I've read, and Chairperson, you might have received some communications as well, the certified personnel need to get on calendars because there are not There's not enough of them to go around to all the schools, essentially. They've actually pushed back one of the dates a bit, but we still have to have 20% of our schools done, by a certain time. So to get this funding ahead of time will allow us to schedule and be in a good place for when those dates come true. So we're looking at, so again, there's two pieces that go into the indoor air quality. Our annual cost will be, at this point, $88,580. That comes from Eagle Environmental, who actually does our air testing when we need them now. And Eagle Environmental also facilitates our quarterly district safety committee meeting. So we're very familiar with that particular company. We are looking for additional quotes, however. The balancing one is the more expensive one, and that's coming in right now at about $30,000 for all 4 schools. And Mr. Carlson's also looking to get some additional quotes for that as well.
But we don't have those numbers in our plan here?
Oh, we do. It's in the 24-25 year,
Okay.
halfway down the page, air quality upgrades
Okay,
for 40,000. So we knew
okay.
this was coming down the pike, and we planned for it. It would just behoove us to request it now so that we have it, moving forward for next year for planning.
And for this year, 23, 24, we haven't asked for anything that hasn't been on the plan, correct? And there have been some things on the plan we've asked for and you've taken care of other means?
Sure. So everything we request has been part of our capital plan. There's a few items we will not need to request this year. That's if you flip the page of your packet. We will not need to request the air duct cleaning for $35,000. We took that from from non-lapsing funds and already took care of that. We will.
I'm sorry, that's in 2020?
23, 24.
That's in current year, correct? 23, 24, Mr. Welsh. There's air duct cleaning for $35,000.
Yeah, okay, so the XXXXX should read 23, 24?
Yeah, it's on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, I was going to just grab the exact date so I can
I'm
put it
just
in.
looking at the letter to Jeff, that's
Yep.
all.
Yeah, I will fill that in with the
While I'm
date.
looking at the letter, just remind everybody that today is Tuesday, May 28th. 3/4 of the way down the page. Missing. I'm sure you'll catch it.
I put Monday, the 28th somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I will fix that, thank you.
You'll see it.
Also, the high school gym floor, and the stage, we did have $60,000 in our plan to refinish. As you know, we have a roof project within the next year or so, which is over the gym. So it does not make sense right now to redo the floor when we're going to be doing the roof over. And actually, we've been doing a really nice job taking care of our floors. So we are going to hold off on that right now and wait to reassess once our roof is done. So we will not be requesting the $60,000 that's in our plan. And the third item is the $39,000 for field warning tracks and fencing. The Board of Education is focusing on the irrigation system first. So at this time, we will not be, unless, that changes, but that was kind of our pathway right now.
Can we go back to the air quality for a moment? This is maybe a dumb question, but, so this is all about testing, right?
Correct.
Where and how do we pay for anything that is found?
Through maintenance. It would either be through our maintenance budget, or we have used non-lapsing funds for kind of larger unexpected repairs to building.
Okay. So we have a balance of something that would be accessible to deal with findings that are expensive? I know we don't have a choice but to test. I'm just like, then what?
Right, right. So there's a working group.
Okay. All right.
That's how we pay for, we have a maintenance budget,
Okay.
Anything that is unanticipated or exceeds, we have used our non-lapsing funds before. I think we did some boiler work at the high school a couple of years ago, some controllers and things like that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Just my comment to the board, by us, and I'm not proposing we do it, but we're not in position to do the field warning tracks right now or the fence. Those dollars, bumping them till next year, though, becomes difficult because of the roof is in next year of $2.1 million. That might be one thing we may want to consider our non-lapsing fund for as we look further down. The Board of Finance doesn't like surprises. I think the Board of Finance will be happy to see that we use non-lapsing for the air duct cleaning, that we're waiting to refinish the gym floors. But I think there may be some difficulty of pushing those dollars off next year where we already have a big request in for the roofs. Just food for thought, that's all.
Also with depending on which direction with the city water well and
Yeah,
that cost, the way that the funds were issued last year for failed maintenance, it could fall into that as well. Correct?
I would hope so.
So,
I'm not sure I understand your question, Ricky. I'm sorry, would you repeat
so
that?
we have the 50 from last year. We're going to request 75, 125.
Right.
So if we have quotes that for the irrigation come to 90, that would leave us with 35. Now, depending, that's if the city water is adequate and we don't have to go beyond that. So we have field warning tracks and fencing combined for 39. So we're close. So I don't think we'd have to dip into non-lapsing too much. Wouldn't be a massive fund.
Yeah, what we probably need to do, if we're just asking, I've been very particular with what I asked the Board of Finance, so if we're just asking for irrigation.
For the 75, correct.
Right, and if there is like a 39, I would suggest as a board, we make that recommendation, we would go back to the Board of Finance and request
We always give it back.
to use that funding. I wouldn't want to just slide it. I've been,
No, I meant
very careful
the
with.
50 from last year. Yeah, that's,
Yep,
okay.
yep. No, I hear what you're saying. It makes good sense. That's why I'm wondering, are we leaving it with just, is that the board's preference to leave it with just irrigation?
As far as
Because I don't have any quotes for fencing.
As far as protecting investments, that's critical because of the sod that we already put down. You don't want to just toss that in the trash from last year. I'd say that's 100% needs to be. And then we just have to consider the safety aspect for the fencing and the warning tracks. I know that was brought up. I don't know if anyone's actually evaluated that.
I have not. I'm having a challenging time to get companies for the irrigation. We tried looking at all-inclusive, and that wasn't working out really well, so
Yeah.
it was actually easier to focus on one at a time. I mean, if the wish is for me to try and go get some fencing quotes, I can certainly try my best. But we would have to have another meeting then, unless you give me permission to move forth with the motion, because the Board of Finance is June 11th.
Yeah, it may be tough for you to get quotes for that. On the warning track, I'm wondering whether the town could help us with that.
I
'cause that's-
think that could be done internally
Yeah.
between either the town and or BOA could.
That's scraping it down and putting stone dust
Stone
down.
dust, yeah.
That's all.
I think that could be
That
handled.
would be helpful. Because we probably, don't want to disturb an irrigation system once we put it in.
I can't imagine it taking long to get a fence quote. Most fence companies nowadays look on Google Maps.
They do it by feet. Yeah, I guess we could probably try to get a couple fence, but they just charge by the number of feet.
Especially when the fence is already in place, they see where your posts are, they can get your quote same day.
Is that fencing at both the baseball and softball? Is that what that represents?
It is, but we may want to look at repairing in some way, because I know there's a problem where the ball goes under the fence. Well, if they put in some fill by the fence, the ball wouldn't go under the fence.
That fence, softball.
Fence shop?
That softball field fence is so out of whack.
Right.
Okay.
The majority of it's a chain link, and the top guard too is all beat up a lot of places.
It's got holes inside, in the
Is
fence
there-
itself.
Oh,
Not to
okay.
mention,
Is there protection on the top of that fence? I haven't-
Some of it's
I haven't
missing,
been down a softball
some of
field.
it's missing, some of it's cracked. That could actually,
they replaced the side caps for the fencing on the foul lines. They replaced that a couple of years ago. But the outfield fence is just garbage.
But if we know-
all around.
how old is that fence? Do we know who installed it? Because they'd be more likely to trust, the majority of labor in installing a fence is digging holes, and especially in New England with the rocky soil and planting and cementing and posts. That's the majority. If they could reuse the posts and just replace chain link, it's going to be a significant cost savings.
My issue with that, again, looking at it from a softball perspective only, I think the baseball field has its own issues as well with the fencing, but softball fence, that fence is not even regulation for women's softball.
You mean at depth? Okay.
It's off by about 35.
At all points, or is it where
Yes.
the geometry, only
No.
these three posts move out? to
It's
create-
probably about 235, and most regulation softball fields are going to be on the lines from 190 to 200 to center field that goes out to 220. That, or you can make it 200 all the way around. You go down to Fast Pitch Nation and all those fields are 200 all the way around, except for the main field where they have their tournament finals, it's 190, 220. And you go look at most regulation women's softball fields, and that's what the dimensions are going to be.
So you're saying East Granby leads in home runs?
No, they're actually losing home runs because the fence is probably about
I mean,
235.
because of shorter.
And people like to see home runs.
Well, no, it's just, it's not fair to,
No, but people do like to baseball, seeing home runs. And we're making it more difficult. We should standardize it.
Oh, the fence is farther than it?
It's too big.
Oh, I thought,
35
I was following backwards. I thought it was too far in.
no.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, I think it's
I mean,
worth
that,
getting an
that the
evaluation
fence has
assessment.
got holes in it, the whole area, because the fence butts up against the embankment, especially in left field, it's just gonna keep falling down. If you bring it into something that, what I'm referring to as regulation length, you're now gonna have stability behind the fence so that you're not gonna experience that. Just because you fill it in, it's just gonna erode away again.
Yeah, right now it just drops off.
Yep.
On the other side of that fence.
So if you keep it in, 20 to 30 feet, you've now got some stable land behind it to maintain that.
We could look at it separately, though. I mean, if the dimensions are set properly, then reuse those posts.
Well, it sounds like it's worth calling out, like you said, there are fence companies and they
Yeah.
could come out and do an assessment for us and see if we can get some estimates before then. We'll have a meeting before then, right? If we want to
We
have
will
it.
not.
We will not.
Well, we have nothing scheduled, I don't think, because usually the Board of Finance wants their documents a week ahead of time
Okay.
before their meeting,
When is the meeting again?
June 11th.
June 11th.
For Board of Finance,
Correct. I think that's what I have on my calendar.
it's the 18th on this sheet, on that.
Well, we could approve it tonight and if we could get fencing, we do. If we can't get quotes, we don't. Yeah, if you guys want to
If we don't
approve
get
it.
the work done, then we return it.
If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Yeah, because it's going to be harder to get the money to push it off to next year. It'll be difficult. And I guess if we're going to do the field, you know, we might as well do the field.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just thinking,
It's
economies of scale to have it bid, both fields. But I don't think that really applies, like if we split it and said, 1 year we're going to do one fence on one of, and then the next year.
Just
I
pure
don't-
math,
Yeah.
the dimensions of the baseball field is going to be far greater than the softball field.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I'm just saying, like, if you put it out to somebody, to a contractor, and you said, hey, you're gonna do these two fields, what's the price? Right, I don't think you're getting a big discount by doing both fields as one project versus doing project A, project B, splitting it over.
As long as the bid is part of there's an agreement in the bid. Otherwise, you're running it, if you do one and not the other, then there's gonna be people that are gonna get upset possibly.
No, well, that's, yeah, but where I'm going is like, just to sit there and when people are bidding it, does it really save us money by having them bid on both jobs and doing the whole, getting caboodle, versus saying, no, we're only gonna do this one this year, we're gonna do.
How much is it gonna go up? Just,
Well, that.
if you waited 2 years
No, I
and
get
did
that.
it 2 years
No, I
ago
get that.
versus now.
No, I get that, but
I think percentage-wise on a job that's only expected to be 25 grand, I think it makes more of a difference because most contractors, they show up on site, that's a fee.
No, that's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. My point is if it's a, I don't know, if it's a 20, if it's 20 to do one, and it's, and it's.
28 to do two.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah.
Right, versus it's 20 to do one, and then next year it's
I think
20 to do the
you
other.
entice more contractors to do two, and you'll get more
Right.
bids, I bet, too.
Yeah. So I meant by economies of scale. Yeah.
Now, just a direction for Missy, we're talking about the outdoor field, or are we talking about all the fencing? There's a big difference. It seems in the past, we've been talking about the outfield fence has been the problem. We're not talking about replacing all of them.
Once you go on the baseball field, and I'm sure it's the same in softball, but once you go past first base and you pass the infield per se, once you get out there, it's short right field. It's actually still probably on the dirt, infield dirt, but that fence right, down the right field line and the fence down the left field line. If you're going to do quote unquote outfield fence, you're going to do that fence.
Yeah, I think that's,
That's where you're going to start
that's-
from.
That's what I'm
If you're
talking
talking about.
I think you're talking about the tall fence,
Yeah, I'm only
all
talking,
ones.
I just want to make sure we're on the same page. We're talking about
Back-
Yeah, yeah.
outfield home run fence, not the fence all the way around the field.
No.
That's
but-
quite
but-
expensive to
but-
do that.
But it's going to be outfield.
Yeah, from left field pole to right field pole,
Oh, no, see,
or around the corner.
Just home run fence.
I would, see, yeah.
Does that help?
I think you need to get some input from the
may-
baseball coaches and from the softball coaches. I haven't seen a softball.
Right
field
now, the
line
softball field, the only fence that's out there is down the left field line.
Down the left field line.
Correct. Right field,
Yes, that's-
right field doesn't have anything.
As it goes
because you
up
have a
on the
big hill.
slope. Yeah. on the
well, there's
slope.
no dimensional questions on the side fencing.
On the right field side, you're right.
Yeah. So that could be just chain link replacement.
So if I could just ask that you clarify what you would like me to,
That's, trying to get here.
I
okay.
think,
I think we should add it, that's my opinion, knowing that it's gonna be far-fetched for next year and prices are only gonna go up.
if you're gonna do it, I would make the suggestion to get, especially in the baseball field, as John's talking about, the sideline fencing as well as the home run fencing, ask them to delineate the two.
We can have it broken out.
So you know how much the home run fence is, then you understand that. If you gotta cut something, you already have it broken down,
Yep,
and it shouldn't be a big
Makes
deal
sense.
to just say, okay, well, I can only take this and this right now. And if they want to negotiate from there, then so be it, but
yeah, because the amount of fence on the two fields we have on the sidelines is more than twice what the home run fences are.
on the baseball field, yes. Softball field, it's only the right field line.
Right, it's not on the
Sorry, left field line.
field line. It only goes down to the dugouts on the other side. So that's a good point of getting it, the whole thing, and then getting it just the outfield fences on both.
And the quote would be to either repair or replace whatever the assessment is, correct? Because I did,
The side, if I remember correctly, the more concern on the side is the top, the covers, right? On the sides. on
The sides, yeah, I think,
Because if you're running for a foul ball, some of those top guard, the caps are in bad shape. I could see that.
some of
being an
them
issue.
are, yeah. I want to say the softball field
Either, I
actually
think
got
both.
replaced
But new ones.
just a
Oh, they
couple of
did?
years ago.
They did?
Great for the bees again.
Who put the ones on baseball?
I think at the baseball, Friends of Baseball.
Yeah.
Like recently?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been down in a few.
Softball was done.
They must have put the
Look, you can see
fence, they put
Okay.
a logo out on the fence too. I would imagine the screening. We didn't do that, right?
Okay.
Yep.
Friends of Baseball. There was
It's a
somebody that.
fundraiser.
It's a fundraiser.
It's an organization that supports the baseball.
Parents, friends.
There weren't too many bad spots of the fence on the sides. It was more of the caps, but if they replaced them already. Yeah, I'd just put it to repair, replace, and then,
So if I change the field irrigation to field maintenance, which includes irrigation and fencing, does that seem to be,
yeah, and then we'll adjust the warning tracks internally.
Then I'm not sure,
Should be the same ask, Missy.
then I'm not sure that the 75 is enough.
But is it 125 in total?
it's 75 and 50, yes.
So 120.
Yes, it's 120, it would be 125.
It's not enough for the fencing.
To irrigation, 3 fields.
Well,
But we've got 25 here for fencing.
yeah, what we planned on the capital, it's, let's see, 114. That's for the capital plan for all three,
Right.
Including the warning track.
including the warning track too.
Yeah, we've got 25 for replace field fencing here. Field irrigation, 75. I mean, if we don't think 25 is going to be enough for the fencing. Nope.
Well, there would be enough because we have 125 for irrigation, or for, like Missy said, maintenance.
It would be irrigation.
And the irrigation's
yeah.
only is just under 100. We can use that towards the fencing. That's why I like her idea of keeping it for field maintenance, because we don't want to be broken down.
So I guess my question is,
I group them all.
are we increasing the 75 and including what we've had in our plan then for the fencing as well?
I think that's, yes, yes.
Anyone object to that?
Yes.
Yes, and it sounds like.
Okay. And what about the field warning track for 14?
Internal? See if we can get DBW to do it.
Yeah, let's see if we can do that jointly.
Okay, so I will add in this, with the 75, I will rephrase it for field maintenance to include irrigation and fencing, which is what we estimated on our capital plan for 75 plus the 25. Right. Okay.
Right.
And we want to confirm that they still know we have 50 from last.
Oh, they do. It's in our, yeah. Okay, so I will rewrite that. If anybody has any fencing companies that they'd like me to reach out to, send them my way. If not, I will do the best I can to see what we can get. Okay? And then, so if you flip the page, we went over the items that we will not be requesting. And then the last page is what the Board of Finance also requests each year. And this is the capital non-reoccurring fund status update. So by the end of this year, if you see what's in red, these are all our capital items right now. Everything in red where it says close, we'll be able to close. And we'll be giving back $13,500 back to the town. So what we requested and didn't spend it all, that's the remaining balance for each of those asks.
And on page 2, Missy has a proposed motion if you'd like to use that, or we could use any motion that you'd like to present. Is that what that's for, Missy, example?
That is, yep, that's the, I just took it from last year. That's, unless you want to say as amended with adding the additional 25,000, because that's not in this current plan. Or this document, I should say.
The current document's not final, is it?
It is not. It's just my working, just so we can all look at something.
Right, I'm just saying, do we really need the as amended? Because this is our working document for right now. Well, I guess what you handed to us only has the 75, so I get where you're coming from, okay. I'll take a stab at this motion.
Okay.
Ready?
This will be fun.
Just don't stab me if you miss.
At the Board of Education regular meeting held on Tuesday, May the 28th, 2024, the Board of Ed voted and approved to request from the Board of Finance and the town to use capital non-recurring funds for facility priorities, upgrades, equipment, and technology as amended during the meeting to add to field irrigation, field maintenance, and an additional $25,000.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
We have a
Did you get that, Lisa?
first and a second. Any other discussion or questions on it? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carried unanimously. Very good, thank you. Thank you. And let's see, we did that, now we're item 4C, and I'll get back to March 2024-25 budget freeze. You want to make a motion first, and then we'll let you discuss it again? Because
Yeah.
before the motion, we just have to put it on the agenda.
Yeah, I want to make a motion to have a hiring freeze for the budget for 24-25 fiscal year. 24.
That young lady asked a very good question. Is it a hiring freeze or is it an entire budget freeze?
hiring freeze.
It's a hiring freeze is what you're after.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, because I would imagine Missy has to order
What I've
things
got.
for next year.
Right.
And people cost us a lot more money, but things you have to have.
I'm sorry, can you
Yes.
just repeat it, Mark?
So I'm
Just so we're clear.
proposing a hiring freeze for budget year 24-25 until after the approved budget is,
Until such time as the
Until such
budget.
time as the budget is approved.
Our budget is approved.
a budget is
Passes the
approved.
town referendum.
Yes.
Approved.
Approved.
I'll second that. Second that.
Any questions or comments on that?
I just want to know what kind of implications it's
Yeah,
going to have.
I-
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be my question. I'll
Like we have a
ask,
janitor leaving.
I'll ask the superintendent.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's why I've got some things, but I wanted to take it one step at a time before I actually gave you some of the information that I have. Or do I need to give that now?
Well, I think it's important to know what you're thinking.
I would think so too, but half the time we just throw these out and then we talk about it after the fact, so I wasn't sure.
Well, Mark, you made the motion, so you start.
Yeah, go ahead. So, I'll yield to you.
Want the detail?
I'll yield,
What I-
yeah, absolutely.
So since, I mean, we've got some concerns here with the budget. And at this point, since, I believe it was March, you've called out that we have had 2 teachers that have resigned or retired, whatever the case. These are people that have left the district or are choosing to leave the district. We've got 2 teachers, a para, 2 custodians, the guidance secretary, the AP specialist, or the accounts payable specialist, middle high school librarian media specialist, the AD, who is also doubling as the girls basketball coach, if I'm not mistaken, correct? So there's 8 there that have been called out that you've brought to us and told us about just over the last 2 months.
Probably a couple more teachers, actually.
Right. This is just what I recall and what I've been able to
Sure.
cobble together. So those are 8 positions right there that would add up to a fair amount, if, at least put a freeze on it right now, from the perspective of townspeople, we're going out and hiring, but yet we can't get a budget approved. I think we ought to at least do this for the time being until we can get over the hump. Then we can then determine what we need to do. If it is a situation where we need to, there's positions that need to be discussed and considered, well, maybe we go with these first and just not hire people. I'm putting it out there as a suggestion, as just some points, but at minimum, put hiring freeze on right now.
Can I just,
Please.
can I? Okay, so just a couple things that pop right away into my mind. If this turns into a Town of Windsor 6 or 7 referendums, and we have a hiring freeze, we're screwed. Excuse my vulgarity. because it's conceivable that if it continues to fail, and continues to fail in, presentations and reductions by the Board of Finance, and it continues to fail, and it continues to fail, what'll happen is they'll go out with a tax billing based on the current, current budget levels, current fundings, appropriate term, levy. It'll just go out that way, and it'll just keep snowballing. And it's conceivable that it would be then, finally, if a referendum on number 5 or 6 or 7 passes, you're probably at that point into beginning of school, and then we'd have a real issue. So that if you wanted to say that you wanted to put a 30-day moratorium, that might not be a bad idea. The target date to try to get bills out, is typically June, which obviously isn't going to happen because June's looking us right down there. But to sit there and to say until such time as a budget passes, that could be problematic for us, Mark. So if you want, again, if you wanted to say, put a July 1 deadline, I could see that. Just from a cash flow, what happens if we have to start school and we have positions that clearly need to be filled. But the first thing that actually popped in my head was, and the reason I originally looked over to you, Missy, would be if we said 30 days, or if we said, beginning of school year, or whatever, if we said that, and even 30 days, I would ask, how does that affect us? Not necessarily like replacing people that are, 12-month employees, but how would that affect us in terms of trying to hire and fill the positions that we know we need to fill? And you recognize, obviously, Mark, you recognize the positions that clearly are going to be filled. I just wonder that, what's the deadline in terms of making sure that we're not going to, short-side ourselves and having,
The 5.89% budget that was presented has a reduction of 5.2 FTEs. We don't have a plan to replace those. So that's already...
Right, but Mark mentioned other positions, and we just heard,
Right.
we said farewell to a custodian.
Correct.
And,
So looking at the bottom line budget of if these individuals have already resigned or submitted the resignation for whatever reason, there's 8 positions that I just called out that are not going to be replaced. Maybe in lieu of those, is it going to bring us back to these positions are not there and saving others? I don't know. I'm asking the question right now.
I don't know if I'm sure. I'm 100% sure of what you're asking.
Well, there's 8 positions right here. If they add up to, and obviously I'm making up a number here, $300,000 or $400,000, we don't replace these, and that reduces our operating budget by $400,000 because they are no longer going to be there. We now push that through for a budget perspective and say, okay, we've got that. I'm just putting out an idea of opportunities.
Some of those positions are in our budget.
Some are.
Some of those positions are in our budget. Some of those positions might include a third grade teacher. And to sit there and say, oh, they've just left our employ, now we're saving X monies, is ignoring the fact that now we have, instead of 3 or 4, we now have only 2 or 3 third grade teachers. So we know, no matter how you cut it, we're finding a replacement for that person. We've already gone and reduced the staff that we had to reduce to get ourselves to 5.
Have we reevaluated since the unexpected retirements came into place, though? Because the 5 full-time that that was part of that one budget package was done on the needs, on what could be reduced, not a need, but the most viable to make things still work. Where that was before we had some retirements. And with, especially at elementary level with certifications where you can you're more free to move around within that group, right? So I don't know the list of the 8 completely, but have we reevaluated it? Obviously, we can't replace 2 custodians with paras. That's just not, you got to replace a
Yeah.
custodian with a custodian. That one we can't really freeze because you need custodians, right?
We absolutely have reevaluated. So
Okay.
remember when we started this process, we had no retirements and no resignations. So that's when we did our workshop and we were looking at, a variety of different scenarios.
My question is, have any of these new retirements been updated in that, since those budgets?
100%. So
And
in that
beyond
budget, that last presentation are the exact 5.2% FTE that make up the retirements and resignations.
Okay.
And the leave.
Then how close? And then since we got these, and if any got repurposed, and then we brought that number down a little bit, then have we considered severance? We talked about it briefly, but maybe people who are within their rights to retirement, but maybe it bridges the gap where a severance package, it's half of what a full contract would be, but have we evaluated that aspect of maybe people are on the verge of retiring and then they could leave by choice with just getting creative.
But it still puts us we have to replace the position. Now,
But
right, and I'll agree to that, but
less tenured teacher.
Well, I will tell you that that's not 100% true anymore.
Okay.
Simply because there is a teacher shortage.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you an example. If we had a science teacher that left in the next couple weeks, we do need to hire another science teacher. If we had maybe another elementary person retire or leave, we'd be hard pressed to not hire another elementary person. So it's really kind of a puzzle as to where people are leaving and where the openings are. So the 5.2 FTEs that are through resignation, retirement, or leave requests, those will not be replaced, and those are the exact numbers that we worked into, the budget for next year. Tomorrow night's meeting will be interesting. I think that's gonna give us our next, kind of directive.
Well, let's take a step backwards. Going back to my initial point about a temporary, using that word now, hiring freeze until the budget has been approved. And then we start to hire people again. That's what I was initially saying. I was talking about a number of them that are out there. To say, we aren't going to hire these people right now, maybe we don't. We put a moratorium in place to say, okay, we're not going to hire until we get the budget approved. Yes, John, to your point, we're going to have to replace some people. If they left, we've got to fill those billets.
Yeah, I'll make a comment, because after listening to you, and John, I thought brought up an interesting point, because we do have to operate
Yeah.
when school starts, and we can't wait till September to take a budget freeze off. So I like the idea of a time frame. At least it gives us right now, it gives us a time to take a breath. We don't want to be cutting positions, cutting people. We have some openings. We have a few more weeks of school. We can get through. But I think it comes where Missy's got to fill some slots. We don't want to wait until, we could have no budget come August. And the only thing we're going to get for next year is going to be, I think I'm correct, this year's budget. It's the money we spent this year. Is it true they can't give us less than they gave us this year?
yes.
So with that, and with some people not returning, we can function through the year because of even with the increases and everything, we can function. But I like the time frame. I don't like putting it off forever because it really ties Missy's hands up. But I think the time frame, just take a break, look at it, and get us to the end of the year. And hopefully people see that we're serious about it, that we've we've put a temporary freeze in and they realize this is serious.
The end of the fiscal year.
I just would worry that people would misconstrue what that means, and then they would suddenly do a calculation that says, oh, well, the Board of Ed needs, fill in the blank, X number of hundreds of thousands of dollars because they had 2 or 3 more people leave. And I let the Board of Finance, decide what that magic number that they feel, is going to be successful on round 2 of referendum. But I'm just worried that someone's going to say, gosh, there's $300,000 or $400,000 that the Board of Ed doesn't need because these positions have left. And clearly we will need to fill these people. And, the differential, and I appreciate your comment, Missy, the differential between someone that's been with us for a while and is leaving and who we might replace them with, I would have thought would be great. And I would think there'd be enough to be able to at least say, well, geez, maybe we do have some savings in that regard. But if it's not the case, then,
Not in all areas.
Then-
Some areas, sure.
yeah. So I wouldn't want to suggest that there's that kind of money out there. On the other hand, I'm fine with the idea of like I said, 30 days or something, just to see how the next cycle of referendum goes.
That's what I was thinking too, is when is that?
They're gonna, when they meet tomorrow, presumably, they're going to come up with some sort of proposal.
And then the Board of Selectmen will come up with a referendum date.
And we'll have to have a budget meeting in the meantime.
Yeah, I'm going to just share a little bit more of my concerns with not being able to hire. We're already tight with custodians, for example. Summer, we do a ton of work. We've had challenges before hiring for custodians. We have one in every building with an extra one, with the second part-time person. I think if we wait another month, we're going to really be behind with our summer cleaning work, because what we do is we shift all of our custodians, we get ready for summer school, and we operate in, we put all of our forces for some time in certain buildings so that we can get the buildings. It's a pretty tight schedule, especially with summer school. The guidance secretary position is a really key position for Karen Gogel and Student Support Services. It's not a 12-month position, but there is time that person, and without being able to put someone in that position in the next month, I think will be, I think would be hard. The AP position, the accounts payable, this, if you remember, this was our bookkeeper position that a couple years ago, when we had to move into Gatsby and be compliant with with some of our funds moving to online, that's where we condensed that position into a broader accounts payable or student activities position from what used to be a paper and pencil bookkeeper. So we've been making progress, and I would hate to kind of slide backwards. I'm just really concerned with, we're so close to the end of the year, and we're already looking at our, summer work and, what that will entail. The other question I would have is, by contract, we provide our stipend opening, so our curriculum leaders and, stuff like that. So I don't know if that is included as well in your request.
It's straight across the board, it's not selective. I'm looking at perception.
How about an addendum where your motion, we request a freeze until the end of, Linda had mentioned the end of the fiscal year, which is the end of June, but we give Mitzi the opportunity to present positions to us because they may be, necessary at that time. to hire in that position. So we still haven't taken everything, and just, because if we just fill everything and we don't get the money, we have a problem paying everything. But that way she can do what she needs, because again, the accounts payable is a position that's important. The secretary one, though, we're not talking about Karen Gogel's secretary.
No, the guidance.
The guidance secretary is what we're talking about. And that's been filled by the athletic director till the end of the year, and probably can, go to the end of the year. Hopefully, we're going to pass a budget soon, but I think an addendum and put, to the end of the fiscal year, unless Missy comes to us with these particular items that she feels necessary, I think the board would be open to approving those type of things. Just thought for whatever you guys think.
So forgive me, because I'm still fairly new on how this plays out. Because earlier this year, when we were talking about, different levels of cuts and different ways that we might be able to make cuts, we talked about some different ideas of consolidating teams, or there was an administrative position that was on the table. And now we have the different resignations that are on there, but then there was like the 7 teachers that were potentially given pink slips that weren't. At what point will any of those people know whether or not they have a position? Because I'm sure there's some concern over losing those people for their own, that they might need to find something else that they know where they're going. I mean, is the answer not until we pass a budget referendum, or is it not until
Correct.
we decide where we're at here?
Correct, because the number the Board of Finance gave us at 5.89, we were able to meet with one staff reduction, but then it was inclusive of all voluntary resignations or retirements.
Right.
So it's
So there's
really
still
going to be.
one staff reduction.
There's one staff reduction,
Yeah.
which was an ESSER-funded position. So we will need to go through teacher termination by reason of
Seniority.
reduction in force for that. That's why tomorrow night's going to be really important, because that'll give the next guidance essentially. So everyone else that was given that preliminary letter, there was no follow-up on that. Because in that time frame, we have, like I said, 6.2 if you include the para that we won't fill, reductions in our FTE staff across the board.
So there's only one person that proceeded past that pink slip, or the preliminary, you could be on the non-renewed.
With the 5.89, that's correct.
And could the position be saved by one of the people that are now leaving? Or no? There's so many moving parts.
No.
I'm trying to connect on it.
A lot of these are leaving are going to need to be replaced,
Okay.
as long as we have a budget to pay them.
I think the ESSER-funded position, the person knew that they had an ESSER-funded position
That's
from the
correct.
very beginning, right?
And what position was that?
High school intervention.
And to be an interventionist, you have to carry, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, you have to have certifications for high school as compared, if you're elementary, you are certified to teach elementary, but you're not necessarily you're not certified to teach high school, right?
Intervention's a little different, because you can have a concentration, that's going to be your intervention. K-12, you can have a special ed degree, you can have, so there's a little bit more of a wider umbrella over a position such as that.
Okay, we're getting bogged down in this, so we either got to come up with a motion we want to vote on, or talk about some more, something's going to work?
Do we want to see what the Board of
We
Ed's
have a
going to
motion.
Motion already.
Okay, I don't know what the motion is anymore. Why don't you read the motion?
It was,
Okay.
it was
What
marked.
I said originally.
It was for a
Okay.
hiring freeze for 24-25 until after the budget is approved.
Okay, and I was asking about if anybody wanted to do an addendum to it for put a time limit on it, okay.
Did you want to amend the motion for a time, or?
Amend it to have a 30-day, for the next 30 days, with if there is the need, allowing the superintendent to come to the board with any positions that may need filling sooner, presented to the board.
Okay, is there a second for that?
Second.
Second from Whitting. Okay. Any other discussion or questions on it?
Will that require a special meeting then for each time?
It would.
I have a feeling you already know the positions that you're going to need.
Mm-hmm.
We want to address them now?
No.
Well, I'm concerned with not having custodians, in the next, so, I'm sorry?
These 2-hour meetings are getting ridiculous, sorry.
Well, it's important to have a discussion.
Yes, no, absolutely, absolutely.
So you need a custodian.
I do.
You need to replace a custodian.
So what if it was only applicable to teachers?
Well, I'd like,
Because the positions that you discussed were
Knowing,
custodians, guidance secretary, and accounts payable kind of functional things. If it was just a bringing forward teachers' positions,
knowing Board of Finance meets tomorrow, we know we're going to need another budget workshop, correct? Do we want to just do a budget workshop, wait this week, and tackle on a special meeting after that? Then we'll address all the positions
Sure.
Yeah. It's intrusive.
Thursday?
No, I actually can't do it the rest of this week.
Okay. Monday? Next week gets hairy for me, but
yeah, I won't be around next week.
I can do pretty much, I'm home, I'll not traveling.
I'm good I'm not good Thursday, no, I'm not. Now, this week's our way of Board of Finance tomorrow.
That's why I said Thursday, so at least we had a day to digest that and get something on the agenda.
Meet Monday the 3rd.
There's a possibility that on tomorrow, that they might go and sort of redirect their energies to talking about a phase-in and putting that forward first before they start talking about actually the budget itself. Now, they should talk about the budget.
It's on their agenda.
Yeah, no, it should be, but if they do that, then the Board of Select will have a meeting to set the referendum date. Now, they've noticed their meeting, right? Board of Select, I would hope.
I don't know,
I would
Mr.
hope they did that on Friday. In which case, the Board of Select, so if they opt to do a phase-in, it has to go to town meeting, a voting town meeting, or a referendum for that. So the question really would be, if they decide to go with a phase-in, will they delay even discussing the budget amount until they know whether or not we're phasing in? It's, you know what I'm saying? But it's not necessarily cart before the horse if they do both. It's not. So sorry, I'm talking out loud, thinking out loud. It's not good fun. So it is likely that all this stuff could all happen week after next. There could be a referendum on the following Tuesday, whatever day that is, and then there could be a town meeting a day or two later to determine whether or not it's a phase-in or not. So, yeah, okay.
There's already a town meeting June 7th for probably your capital items.
On a Friday?
How can it be
Oh, I
June
got that
7th?
wrong. That can't be right.
No,
on
it can't be right,
Friday.
'cause we're not
I don't know why I have it
presenting
on
this.
June 7th, the town meeting. I don't know. I'm wrong. That's
Yes,
what my
like
calendar said
Friday.
I'll be here.
They have two balls up in the air, that's all. That was my point. Okay.
Board of Select special meeting, I do see it on the town calendar for the 30th,
Oh,
so Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
Mark, I would support this. I would support.
That is this Thursday.
I would support that if in the next 2 weeks, the events that I think are going to occur, that we all think are going to occur, and unfortunately in the referendum, the approval of the budget amount, that if it fails, then when we meet on Monday, June the 10th, I would support your motion. I would support your motion just to say to the Board of Finance and to say to the townspeople that, hey, okay, you guys, you know, we want to play this game, we can play this game and see how long it takes. But I personally don't support it right now, so.
You're suggesting waiting and maybe
Yeah.
consider this on the 10th?
Table? Yep.
Table it until the 10th?
Yeah, because there are, again, there's more than one ball up in the air.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're saying waiting to the 10th or doing the freeze until the 10th, until we reevaluate it? I'm not sure which direction we're going.
I was just saying that we should table.
Table it till the 10th.
Yeah.
Table the motion.
Or we could vote and
Table the
vote it down,
motion.
whichever you want to do. But
Table the motion till the 10th.
Okay, so that's a new motion.
The superintendent some flexibility to maybe kind of tackle things that she was just saying are near-term needs, like the custodial, that need to be addressed.
And I would go with that. I would go further and say that, you know, we all know that since it didn't go the first time, we know how the process works, and I'm sure the superintendent's already thinking of, you know, hate to say this, but flat amounts that, you know, and how the board could react to and could adjust to the recommendations of the finance.
I have been.
Might put out there. Yeah, I'm sure you do.
I have a feeling Mitzi's not going to go out and hire 8 people tomorrow.
No.
If she could find 8 candidates.
If she could do it for a couple $1,000 less than she's asking for, then go ahead, right? Excuse me.
Okay, so what's the motion now?
Table
The motion is to table the whole thing. Okay.
till the 10th.
And we don't have to vote on that?
I don't think we
Just- Okay, then we'll go to item 5, agenda items for future meetings. One is school spotlights. Do you have any other agenda items for future meetings?
Yes,
Budget.
budget.
The budget? And we've been getting some letters, Missy, I'd like to add student activities account. Do we put some closure on that before the year's over? Because we're getting questions on it.
Do we need to have a policy meeting before we can put some closure on that, Missy? I'm just going to try and get something on the calendar for next week, but it's already looking pretty.
I know it says future. Could we, at some point, once all the budget and all the problems and all that go away, can we bring someone in to talk to us about solar?
Yeah, we did talk about that.
Yeah, I tried to find
It's
the
time to
emails
revisit
from Ray. I was going through emails and I was going to reach out to see if we can get some other people. Do we want to bring it straight to the board or do we want to start it back up at facilities? Doesn't matter to me.
You know what, Ricky, maybe if we go to facilities, I think it's an idea we should talk to the town about, maybe do something jointly, or maybe using their, I mean, it is their property,
Yep.
all the properties, but maybe there's another piece of property we want to put it on, but maybe do something jointly with them. And they also have some experiences with the solar already, they've done.
Yeah.
And if not, then we'll certainly go out and look at it. But I think sooner than later, because we could be helpful to us, especially as energy rates go up. Okay, nothing else on that? Comments from visitors? Seeing none?
Another thing that I wanted
Oh,
to add.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Whitney, I'm sorry.
Over here gasping air and not talking. So there was somebody had brought it up to my attention about there being the core teachers teach 4 classes and then have a lab. And I just wanted to kind of dissect that a little bit more and understand like what that lab entails and how we can best support our kids during that lab. I don't know if that's a curriculum thing. I don't know if that's something that we talk about as a board, but maybe.
So the middle school lab periods, you're saying,
Yeah,
because there, I
yeah.
know there was some discussion, we did that
Future topic.
in budget time.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess some of those teachers are being used, okay. I didn't mean to cut you off, I didn't know we had any other additions. Any others? Okay, comments from visitors? Seeing none. Motion for adjournment.
I'll move adjournment.
It's the two of us.
Lynn beat you, John, will give you a second.
Yeah, I'll second.
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you for coming, everyone.